Let's start. As you can hear, we are recording this meeting. First of all, my name is Peter van Tarel. I am from the Dutch Volleyball Federation, and I'm also a member of the FIVB Empowerment Commission, and I will be your host for tonight. And I welcome you all on behalf of the Western European Volleyball Zonal Association and the Dutch Volleyball Federation. We are here with a big group, so we muted you all. If you have any questions, comments, you can use the chat. We have a team, they're reading the chat, and they will answer your questions, or maybe ask the question to the keynote speakers. And I'm very delighted to see that we have such a huge group here. I'm sure that for some of you, it feels like a family. You see a lot of people you already knew, I guess. We expect like around 300 people from 50 countries. So that's huge, from all different time zones. So I really appreciate that you took the time to be here. And well, about the webinar, especially in these challenging times in the pandemic, we think it's very important to stay connected to each other, share the information we have, share our experience, and that's what we will do tonight. And this webinar is about beach volleyball and indoor volleyball as a complementary program. And I will introduce you to our keynote speakers. First of all, Victor Anfiloff, former head coach of the Beach Team Netherlands. Joep van Iersel, technical supervisor at FIVB and CEV, and David Jones, strength and conditioning coach at the NOC in the Netherlands and NEVOBO. But before we start our program, I would like to give a special welcome to, first of all, Mr. Mushtaq Mohammed, Vice President of NOSECA Volleyball Confederation and President of the FIVB Development Commission. Nice to have you here, Mushtaq. George Gagles, head of the beach volleyball at the CEV, and Michel Everaert, board member of the FIVB, Vice President of the CEV and Director at NEVOBO. I couldn't find any more titles, Michel. Michel, I would like to ask you to share a few words with us.
Yes, thank you, Peter. I think you did a great introduction. Actually, I'm really happy, both as a director of NEVOBO, but also as board member of CEV and FIVB, that we have such a huge crowd of people. I think this will be a very useful meeting. I think we have very good keynote speakers. I checked the list of participants, and I know quite a lot of them, especially some of Europe and a lot of the Netherlands. I know those are really eager and enthusiastic people, so I wish you all good luck, and I'm quite sure this will be a great meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's get started then. Victor, I would like to give the floor to you. Please take us, grab us and present your story.
Thank you, Stay. Okay, thanks Peter and Michel for the introduction. Welcome everybody. This journey started with the WEVZA, which is the 8 countries in Europe, the Western Zone Volleyball Association. And to be honest, when I was asked to do it, I thought it would be for 12 people. So I started to make a presentation for probably 12 coaches that would normally be involved. And then it went to this many coaches. And then I was like, okay, so if I sound nervous, it's probably because I am, because there's so many people on this call. And if you get it wrong, you have a big negative impact. If you get it right, you have a big positive impact. But people from all over the world, a lot of people that I've worked with previously, people that I've played against previously, and people that I've also met, and a lot of people that I've never met. So fantastic that you're all here. I feel a lot of volleyball love at the moment right now, and I'm extremely proud to be able to be here in front of you to share our knowledge. Some of the stuff that is presented tonight, for some of you, you will already know it. For some of you, you won't understand it. For some of you, you'll think, what's he talking about? okay? But it's the start of at least a level of awareness about how these two disciplines relate to each other, okay? So that's what it's about, all right? So it may raise a lot of questions. That's fine. You can always find us to get answers. Let's go on. The objectives today is to share our experiences and lessons that we've learned over the last 15 years or so, working with volleyball, beach volleyball and indoor volleyball talents in the context of the Netherlands. Just quickly about us. So my name is Victor. I was the former head coach and talent coach in the Netherlands. I come from Australia, so that's where my volleyball experience was started. David Jones, also Australian, coincidentally, has been the head coach of the national beach volleyball program, also for about 10 years. And Joep van Iersel, who's been involved in beach volleyball for as long as I've been in Holland, and he's the CEV and FIVB Technical Supervisor. So welcome to my colleague keynote speakers. Very happy to have you guys here. Our experience comes from the context of this organization that is called Beach Volleyball Team Netherlands. That was started around about 2007. Michelle, maybe I get that wrong by 1 or 2 years, but this is where our experience comes from. And without boring you with the details of how many results we've had, I can just tell you that in our national program, the walls are pretty much covered with these things, including Olympic medals, world championships, European championships, multiple world tour medals. And it's something that we're very proud of. But that's, I'm not going to give you the details of exactly which medals we've won. That'll take all night. Something we're very proud of. Let's move right along. 3 main topics today, and that is having a look at the technical differences between indoor and beach volleyball. Are there any? And if there are, what are they? Looking at load management. How do we manage load for athletes that are training, playing in both disciplines? And in the context of youth, by the way, just so you know. And the last is, what could a hypothetical hybrid program look like? Okay, so they're the 3 topics today. Just a little warning before we start is that these are our learnings and our experiences and our opinions. It does not constitute the truth. Okay, so it's just sharing knowledge, what we've learned. For those of you that know me, I have an opinion, but it doesn't mean I'm right. And I always invite people to shoot at my opinion, and I become better from that. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. And I know personally, I will become wiser from your questions, okay? But it's not the truth, it's just opinions. And hashtag, we love volleyball, that's why we're here. Indoor, beach, snow, grass, we love it. Moving right along, this picture here is, I personally use my telephone to remember things. So it's very handy if you have your telephone handy, you can take photos of the slides. I know it will be recorded, but sometimes it's really nice to have a quick reference, take a photo of the slide, and that will help you to refer later, also with your colleagues or with players that you want to share it with, if you have it on your telephone, okay? Otherwise, you will have to go back to the recording and watch it for 1.5 hours. Just a little tip. Right, now, where does this start, Victor? Dancing, it's supposed to be about volleyball. I was born in Canberra, that's the capital city of Australia, and my experience of hybrid development started at the age of 14 in Australia. And my development looked like this. A dance between playing volleyball on the sand, on the grass, in the gym. I would train 2 hours on the beach, and then I would go straight to indoor practice and train 2 hours. And that's what everybody did. That's how we rolled in Australia. So for me, when I moved to Europe, it was it was a bit of a surprise for me when I kind of encountered this thing, where I heard these things being said, that beach is bad for you. And that came from the side of indoor volleyball. And my answer was, I actually had no answer, to be honest. I was confused, but it got me thinking. And that was, if I was to be able to make a good response to those people, it has to be an informed answer with content and not just, I don't agree with you. But I must say that in the comments that I heard from indoor people, that beach volleyball is not good for your indoor game, I also never received an adequate answer. That I felt was never an adequate answer. And that's where the journey started for me, to ask the questions. So we go on to the first topic, and that's technical differences. So the questions we are asking is, are there actual technical differences? And if so, which ones are different and how are they different? For the techniques that may be different, how do we manage these in a hybrid development situation? Remember, hybrid development, we're talking about youth players, so in the age of 13 to 20 years old, okay? And at the end of this, we try to answer the question, can training or playing of either beach or indoor really make you worse at the other one? Just quickly, we are looking today at service reception, the setup, attack, and block. Service and defense is for another time. I have to make choices, otherwise we'll be here all night. So at least that'll give us a chance to meet up another time online. And this is also not about a tactical discussion between the two disciplines. That is also another 2 or 3 hour presentation. Okay, so we're just looking at the differences in those techniques: serve, setup, attack, and block. Okay, just so you know. So you're not disappointed when I don't talk about defense. Although I will enjoy doing that at another time. Right, let's start. Service reception. Just give you a little picture library here. So as I understand it, that's the ways to receive a serve in indoor beach volleyball. And I know that there are things like a tomahawk as an emergency option, but no one's really training that structurally. So there's the options. So let's not talk about the hand reception for now. Let's talk about the underhand reception. In my opinion, the techniques are the same, but they are just simply applied in a different context and in a differential manner. Those photos, I think that they say enough. And I'm sure there are people on the call that will say, no, they're very different. But let's be honest, the fun of that are pretty much the same, at least in my opinion. But let's zoom in and let's see what might be the small differences. So we're now talking about the differences in beach reception. And these are the differences in beach service reception as opposed to indoor. So the difference is, when you're passing the ball in beach volleyball, you don't tend to pass the ball right to the net. Okay, so in beach volleyball, the setter is not tending to jump set the ball, although we are seeing a development in the sport that is starting to happen. But generally speaking, the pass is off the net. Okay, and I've said there, except for the on-2 system. So for those of you that are familiar with the Swedish team that are passing the ball on the net and attacking on 2, that's an exception for now. How else is it different? The location can differ. Okay, so for example, if I'm on the left side in beach volleyball, I'm not necessarily passing the ball to position 2-3 or to the right side like you do indoor. I might be passing the ball to position 3 or 3-4. Okay, so, or I might just pass the ball to position 3. But the difference is the location can be different. The pass tends to be lower so that the wind doesn't have the chance to blow the ball away. And when the ball's blowing away, it's more difficult for the setter. And the hand pass is not used. And Joep, you're going to have to take your microphone off right now to answer my quick question. The handset, the hand pass is not used to receive serve on the beach, even though the rules are the same in indoor. So it's about the interpretation, correct?
Yes, correct. It's overhand with fingers should be 100% correct, otherwise the referee will whistle him.
Yeah, but actually it's the same rule as indoor. It is allowed, so that means that I have done it myself. If you serve me a really easy serve, then I'm just going to set it to my partner to hit on 2. It's possible, so we need to understand that it's allowed. It's the interpretation from the referee in beach volleyball. It's a lot more strict, and that's the same on the second contact setup. But understand that it is legal. Nobody does it, and it will be policed very strictly by the which actually, in my opinion, is fair enough. Otherwise, the side-out team has an enormous advantage because the first ball will be a direct setup. It will make side-out easier. But for now, the reason I said hand pass is not used, so let's just stay with that for now. Although if it's a very easy serve and the set is very clean, it is possible to do it. Now, we try to look at, remember, this is about how the sports complement each other or how they cancel each other, how they make each other worse or how they make each other better. So what are the advantages to the skill of service reception that you get through passing on the beach? It's a larger area of responsibility. Okay, so you have 2 passers. It's not much larger, but it is larger, including the short serve. So let's just say that it helps to develop movement, beach volleyball passing. You're responsible for at least 8 meters by 4 meters if you take half of the court. If we say that it helps to develop reaction speed because the wind is changing the flight of the ball. And for those of you that are playing or coaching, especially the float serve, when that float serve hits wind, it's moving a lot. Okay, and that means you have to react very, very late to the change of the flight of the ball. So that's a competency that's important in passing, is reaction speed. So it helps to develop that. Advantages of beach passing in a hybrid context is it helps to overcome the effect of early specialization. This subject, early specialization, we could also talk about for another 3 hours. Okay, so we're not going to. Okay, my opinion is that at a young age, of the age of 13 or 14 or 15, when players are being selected in teams and winning becomes the focus, that you have the tallest kid in the team who's playing in the middle and is already receiving the ball a lot less. We have a libero already, we want to win. And the skill, the passing skill of tall young players starts to go backwards because they don't get the volume of passing. Now, of course, that can be solved in an indoor situation. Yeah. If it's not, if the coach doesn't understand that, then by playing beach all summer, for sure that tall player is going to get a chance to pass the ball a lot. Okay, so that's what I mean by overcomes early specialization. Yeah, logically, it stimulates underarm passing. Let's say in beach volleyball, we're only using the underarm technique to receive the serve. In indoor volleyball, we're using both. But when that float serve in indoor volleyball is getting outside of your body, yeah, and this is no longer possible, and you have to use underarm passing, we're training that in beach volleyball always. You're responsible for a bigger area. The float serve's moving a lot. I can't use my hands. I have to use underarm. So I think that it stimulates underarm passing and helps you in indoor. What are the advantages when you're playing indoor? For beach volleyball, for example, how does it complement beach volleyball? Well, it improves precision because the coach wants you to pass the ball exactly in the hands of the setter so that you have all options. Okay, so in beach volleyball, you tend to pass to a bigger area. There's less precision needed. I know there are beach volleyball coaches there that will be screaming at me right now, but let's be honest, the precision is less in beach volleyball. Serves are faster, which stimulates development of reaction speed as well, but also defensive ball control. If you look at the ball being served at 120 kilometers per hour, trying to control that ball, keep it on your side, get it anywhere near position 2, 3. It asks a lot from of your ball control. So that's another advantage of indoor passing. So, but there are differences, and we already went through that the beach volleyball passes off the net, it's lower, it's different locations. So the issue is that in a hybrid situation where you have players that have been playing beach volleyball all summer, and now they come back to the beach, come back to indoor, for example, and they walk in the gym and they pass the ball 2.5 meters off the net. Now the coach has an option, coach has a choice. The coach says, I told you beach volleyball is making you worse. I have heard it, I have seen it, and it breaks my heart when I see it. Or they can look for solutions. And that's what I'm trying to propose here. And I hope you can follow this. Context awareness training. And I've made an acronym, CAT, easy for you to remember. And now you're all thinking, what on earth are you talking about? I'm going to try to explain it. Context awareness training, being aware of the context you're in now. I'm not on the beach, I'm now in indoor, and vice versa. How does the coach stimulate that process to make sure that you're not passing the ball in indoor 2.5 meters off the net, or when you're on the beach, you're not passing the ball right on top of the net where it's difficult for the setter to make a set. But first we need to go backwards a little bit. Just one backward step, and that's to this thing called differential learning. I'm sure there are many of you on the call that understand what it means. Maybe there are some that don't. Go to Google differential training, differential learning, and you can learn all about it. I tried to make a condensed formula. What does it mean? That's not the formula, but that's an idea of what they mean by differential training, is confusing your body to try to improve your skill development. So playing soccer with flippers on, or doing crazy things that are confusing the messages. But what it actually is to me is this, is that you have technique. And we're talking now about reception. It could be setting, attacking, whatever you want. We have a technique. And a technique is not a skill. A technique becomes a skill when you add variation or pressure. Okay, so differential learning is basically saying we take a technique, we confuse it, we make you execute it in different ways, we give you different challenges, we add pressure to it, and that helps to become a more robust and adaptable skill, which is what's required in the match. In the match, things are unpredictable. Okay, so that's the meaning of differential learning. Just a quick definition: by adding variation and background noise to the development process, we are creating a more adaptable and robust skill. Okay, I think you can see where I'm heading with this, is that actually both sports complement each other differentially. Back to the CAT. Even the cat's wondering, Victor, what are you talking about? Context awareness training. To me, context awareness training is going from differential and then focusing in on actually what's exactly required in indoor volleyball or beach volleyball. And I want to give you an example of how a drill series might look in context awareness training. I'm going to show you now a series of reception. The B is a beach volleyball reception, okay, and it's 2 meters off the net. The I is an indoor reception and it's passed really on the net, position 2-3, the setter has all options, okay? And this situation here is I have a beach volleyball player who has been on the beach 3 months, all summer, loved it, nice tan. They walk into the gym and they're automatically passing the ball 2.5 meters off the net. And we've got our first match in 3 weeks and I'm the coach and I'm going crazy. So I say, okay, you have now been in that context called beach volleyball. So now I'm going to actually, in the first indoor practice, I'm going to practice in a series of 20 balls. Now I want you to pass a beach volleyball pass off the net. Do it again, do it again. And on the fourth one, I want you to pass indoor volleyball pass on the net. Now I want you to pass the beach volleyball pass 2 times. And now the indoor pass on the net. Beach volleyball, indoor, beach, indoor, indoor, beach, indoor, indoor, indoor. And then from that day forward, it's just indoor. So now that we've just invested a little bit of time to help the player understand, oh, I'm in a different context now, and I'm going to apply a different version of my skill. And if it was, for example, going from indoor to the beach, we would do it the other way around. They arrive to the beach practice and I say, okay, I want to see your indoor pass. Pass it on the net. Do that 3 times. Now I want to see a beach pass. And I start to mix them and then I start to phase out the one that's not needed in my context. So in indoor volleyball, I don't need the pass that's 2.5 meters off the net. I want the one that's right on the net where we have all threats. So that's what I mean by context awareness training, the CAT. I hope if anyone could just nod and say, I think I understood it. Peter, just nodding. That's good enough for me. So with the context awareness training is transitioning the awareness of the different contexts and the version of the passing execution that is required. Now, that's a lot in English. And I know many of you, English is certainly not your first language. I hope I could get the message through, but that's what I mean by context awareness training. Okay. And that's whenever I use the acronym in this presentation, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's a solution, at least, for the small differences between receiving on the beach and receiving in indoor. Okay, so that was reception. Moving right along now to the setup. So I've just tried to take a snapshot of the different versions as I understand it anyway. Maybe there are other versions, I don't know, of how the setup is given in indoor and beach volleyball. I start here on the right, nice high contact point, short movement with the hands and the wrists, very little from the arms. Then we have this one. This is very different. Quite deep action, really low. Then you have the old trusty underarm set in beach volleyball. And what I found fantastic in beach volleyball now is this one. I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm not going to say the Swedish beat us to it, because to be honest, I was trying to develop this also a while ago, but they're doing it much better than we ever did. Australians have also been doing it for many years. And that's the jump set on the beach. Okay, so, and you see the jump set, interestingly enough, this example, jump set is a direct hybrid between the left one this deep dish set and a high set. And this one, by the way, got 10,000 likes, and I was one of them. Anyway, and this is Natalie Cook, gold medalist from the Sydney Olympics, Australian. Anyway, I digress. So let's just say for today, for all intents and purposes, that there's 4 versions of setting in beach and indoor. And this is, for me, this is a really honest opinion. I was brought to Holland as a coach, but also with a specialist for hand setting in beach volleyball. So I've spent the last 15 years really focused on that. And I acknowledge I'm also now learning to be an indoor setter at the young age of 49 years old. Really appreciate how different the 2 skills are, and that is quite a risk, and it can be quite confusing for youth players that learn it as one skill. Okay, so I'm saying acknowledge that beach setting, and I'm talking about this setting, the traditional beach setting is this one here on the top left. I don't know if you can see my cursor. This, let's just call it the deep dish set. I'm even ashamed to say it, but it's true. Is very different mechanically than indoor setting, and it should be taught as a different skill to avoid confusion. All right, so it's different, and it's a totally different skill. And what are those differences in beach setting? The energy is coming mostly from the legs and the arms, and not really from the wrists and the hands. I know that the wrists can contribute and the fingers contribute. I get it. But most of the energy in the beach volleyball set is coming from the legs and also the arms. And that's why we take it so deep. And we hold on to the ball for a long time so we can control the ball so it doesn't spin, because the rules have pushed us in that direction. Okay. It tends to be a pushing, yeah. Is it effectively catching and throwing? It doesn't have to be, but we do see it a lot. And indoor is more a flicking, a fast action. So let's be honest, they're different. Okay, and if we don't manage the differences for players that learn how to set on the beach, they go to the indoor game and they try to use the same technique, and it's killing. It can be detrimental when applied to the indoor game in some situations. And I can tell you the team I'm playing in now, they're really enjoying me trying to kick that habit of a slow hands. When my outside hitters are always saying this, I have 6 blockers on me because your hands are so slow. So I'm trying to speed my hands up. But that's legacy from a lifetime of beach volleyball and setting slowly. Okay, and not really having the chance to have learned the difference between both. So risks. Indoor setting on the beach often gets caught as a double because it's spinning. Let's also be honest, the technique in indoor volleyball has become more loose. So the ball can spin, which, to be honest, it doesn't bother me at all. I don't care. But in beach volleyball, the risks are if your technique, your indoor technique is not very well executed, the risk for beach volleyball setting indoor is just too slow. And it's just very difficult to get any distance in a transition situation to be able to push the ball right outside to the outside hitter. Or even worse, in my situation, is that the blockers have too much time to go outside because my hands are so slow. So if we look at hybrid solutions, so I'm going to put context awareness training through this whole presentation. And it means that you're going to have to think for yourself, how can I bring awareness to my players now that the deep set or the slow set is not helping? But my proposed solutions are bring awareness to the difference of the skills and that they are 2 different skills. Slow beach setting and fast indoor setting are different. Another solution, this I personally think is the best solution, and this is where we should head. And I'm going to give the word to Joep in a minute to give some insight. just use an indoor setting technique in beach volleyball, but just pay a little bit more attention to the follow through, and then the ball won't spin, and the referee won't be interested in calling it as a double hit. Okay. And the last solution is that underarm setting, which we saw in one of the 4 pictures. The underarm setup is a fundamental volleyball skill that everyone learns, and it can be easily used as a setup in beach volleyball. So if you have a player who can't do a deep dish, gets called for doubles on the beach, underarm setting is fine. The Brazilians have been winning for years with underarm setting. The Germans also had a lot of success with that early on. Thank God they've gone to more hand setting now. But I want to go now just quickly to our expert. Can you say something, if we talk about one of the issues for indoor and beach volleyball situations is people are afraid to set. Indoor coaches think you hold the ball too long, you're carrying the ball. Can you say anything about the direction or what might be developing in terms of the interpretation of the hand setting in beach volleyball?
Thanks, Victor. I think it's already grown a lot towards each other, because when you and I started in the Netherlands, it was 1.5 rotation and it was whistled. Now, and then the referee, thinking it was wrong, he whistled. Now he has to see it's wrong before he whistles. So I think it's getting more and more towards each other. So the internal pause, the set, is more flexible than it was before. And that's where we're heading to at this moment. So the referee has to see that it's a double, otherwise it's okay.
And no, the reality is that every set is double contact, because it's not possible to set the ball in one motion. It's always, is there a development in the direction of let them play? Just, hey, like if it's really obviously, or is it still calling on spin? Or
no, not anymore on spin. The referee has to see it, and it's more quick and clean. That's more the
quick.
Yes, it should be quick, not so slow. It should be quicker, and then it's yes, I thought so that you would do that, because that's it's growing more and more towards each other.
Yeah, and I'm allowed to clap my hands because I'm one of the volleyball purists, and I spend a lot of time as a player and a coach developing hand setting to be perfect, beach volleyball hand setting, and I think it's ridiculous. So I'm very happy to hear that the interpretation is growing together and that we're not making a big deal out of it, because let's be honest, the people that are watching, they don't really care. So there's
I agree, and only when there's a catch or whatever you call it, then it should be called, but that's indoor and beach.
Yeah, okay, but that means then we go back to these solutions, is that we should be then encouraging everybody that's on the webinar now, is that this middle option is actually the way to go. And that is, the indoor setting technique is fine for beach volleyball. Make sure you follow through to convince the referee. Yeah, if you're going to put your hands all over the place in the follow through, then to be honest, you deserve to be called for a double, but use your indoor technique, go for it, and it should be fine.
Yes, correct.
Great news, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Let's move along. Blocking. I've got, yeah, blocking. Okay, so 2 pictures here. Zaitsev and his crew here. Anders Mol, beach volleyball, clearly the best blocker in the world. You can already see from the pictures that I've put here that there is a difference. You can see that these 3 for a start, there's 3 of them. Big difference. How the middleman got there, how he moved to get there, a swing block is different to how Anders was blocking here. You see that he's trying to take 2 balls. He's trying to take line, and I think he's, to be honest with you, I think he's trying to take line and angle, or at least line and middle. Okay, Whereas these guys are blocking out, with the three, they're blocking out a big zone. And he's trying to do that on his own. So anyway, you can see visually, you can see that there are differences, but I will say this is that the technique is not different, but how they use tactically is quite different between beach volleyball and indoor. But the actual act of what you do with your hands over the net, penetrating, is actually not very different. And I know there are coaches who will say, no, they're very different. They're not very different. But let's have a look at some of the variations. Beach blocking. We have a lot more time. We serve the ball at the player. We know that that's going to be the attacker. You go and stand right in front, good position, okay, in front of the attacker. Okay. In indoor volleyball for the middle blocker, it's just see if you can get out there. Okay. For the outside blocker who's already there, maybe it's a little bit more similar. So there's no need to swing block in beach volleyball. There's no need. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but we don't necessarily need it because we have a lot of time. Although there's arguments that the swing block can generate more height. Yeah, great. We've had players who also have tried to use swing blocking on the beach. Okay, beach blocking can utilize a deep blocking position. You have a lot of time, serve the ball to the player, come and stand in front of them and go deep. And the relevance of a deep blocking position is that you're going below the peripheral vision of the attacker. And that means the attacker doesn't know until the very last moment where you'll actually be making the block. Okay, so that's, if you look at Anders Mol, he's got his bum on the sand before he's going to jump. We don't see that very often in indoor. I'm sure it happens, but as a general rule, you don't see that very often. So that's some features of beach volleyball blocking. Use a variety of proactive block options. Yeah, Anders, that picture of Anders Mol was a good example. One hand on the line, other hand on the middle, or one hand on the angle, or jumping in the angle, the diagonal, and then putting your hands to the line, or jumping in the line, putting your hands to the angle. These are things that you see more in beach volleyball than indoor volleyball, as a general rule. In indoor volleyball, trying to seal out this whole big zone with three blockers if possible. So what does it mean for a hybrid situation? How do they complement each other? I would say that blocking in beach volleyball stimulates the reading ability. So we have time to see there, what's the arm doing? Where is the ball land? Okay, there's the player. Okay, so the best blockers in the world in beach volleyball have the ability to read the attacker. Okay, so they're not just saying, I want to block a zone. They're saying, I want to actually score a block, and that means I need to read what's happening with the attacker. So spending 3 months of the summer blocking on the beach and starting to say, oh, I've got some more time to read the attacker, I think can help in one-on-one situations in indoor volleyball, to be honest. Indoor swing blocking, if we talk about hybrid considerations, I've heard many, when we've been playing with doing swing blocks on the beach, and my own experience when I've seen people swing blocking in the beach, it makes things really difficult for the defender to choose their zone where they're going to defend. So my point is that be aware that if you have a middle blocker who's used to swing blocking in indoor volleyball and they come to play beach volleyball, make sure you have the discussion with the defender and say, hey, listen, maybe try to not swing block and just deep block to make it easier for your defender to read what's happening behind the block. Okay, or say, hey, no, that swing blocking, you're getting a lot more height, a lot more penetration, keep going, fine. use the same technique in indoor and beach. Okay, but in a hybrid situation, be aware, swing blocking on the beach can make it difficult for your defender. Another hybrid consideration is be aware of shot blocking technique being used in indoor. Shot blocking technique in beach volleyball, we're going for height, yeah, up, and not so much penetration. So we're trying to make the shot go higher over the block by blocking straight up and not losing height with penetration to give the defender more time to defend the shot. That's one of our strategies. But if you do that in indoor, yeah, you're missing the penetration. You're getting tooled. It's not very useful. So just in hybrid situations, be aware if your blockers are trying to block shots in indoor, and of course you would apply what? Yeah, the context awareness training to get them to penetrate. Defense, as I said, defense we're not covering today. So I'm just going to skip over that. And we're going forward to the attack. And I mean, in the attack, I'm really actually talking about the power attack, okay? The hardball attack or the smash. Let me just take a little drink of water. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I do have a habit of talking quickly. Peter, you just put your hand up if you think it's too fast. Yeah, I'm already feeling that there's indoor coaches in this call that when I say the hard attack or the hard smash is basically identical, that are screaming, it's different. We're not really talking about these things. So I know that these are variations of, in beach volleyball, for example, we have the pokey, the snaky, yeah, which are allowed. Joep, get ready, I'm coming to you in a second. So we're not allowed to have a soft contact. So the one on the right side, the tip, the soft contact on the front of the fingers, I'm sure all of you know this. For those of you that don't, it's not allowed. Okay. So these are soft shot options. These are not hardball techniques. And I want to talk more about the difference in the hard smash technique. But before I do that, I have a question that I really want to personally ask for you. This thing here in the middle, which I call the craw. Last year, I started taking quite a few photos of people playing pokey shots on the world tour and freeze framing them. And I started to see this thing a lot, and even worse, where the hands open and the ball is on the end of the fingers. Is this allowed? Because this is not, this craw, is this allowed in beach volleyball?
Okay, it's only allowed if the thumb is also flexed. It's not allowed when we have a straight thumb, because Brazilians are doing that. They do they flex their fingers and they push the ball. Ricardo, push the ball with the thumb the other way. So then it's not allowed. The thumb should also be flexed. So
this, I don't know if you can see me. Next is this. So if everything's flexed,
that's okay.
Then I'm contacting on the back. Okay. And as soon as that thumb goes like this,
it's you have to call it.
And what about this one, the knuckle with the thumb?
The knuckle with the thumb. If you only have the knuckle on the left side, it's okay. But if the thumb is part of it, it's wrong.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. It's
Okay.
One of the discussion today, but I was curious. So thank you. Anyway, there's some differences at least. Yep. Okay. Let's keep going. So this discussion now is not about those techniques of how you contact the ball with shots. It's more about the difference between the attack, the hard attack technique. And these are my observations. And this is not a golden rule. This I see sometimes. I don't always see it. There are players who will just come from indoor they'll go to beach and they jump the same way and it's no problem. But there are some times when it is a problem. And that indoor attackers tend to jump more forwards, more horizontally, which is an advantage because it helps maximum transfer of body weight into the ball so that you can hit the ball as hard as possible. Okay, and when the objective is to hit the ball at the top of the block and into the tribune, then you need everything that you've got. Okay. In beach volleyball, hitting the crap out of the ball off the block and into the tribune is not so important. But hitting angles is, because the defender can only take a certain number of balls. They can't defend everything, and the blocker as well. So what you notice is that beach attackers are tending to jump more compact and vertically, which does enable them to attack angles past a single block. The other side product or benefit of the jumping vertically is that enables you to play short shots over the block, because you don't take your horizontal movement into the ball. Fast horizontal movement into the ball, trying to play a short shot makes your short shot end at 4 meters, which is very defendable. It's not a deep shot. It's not a short shot. It's just a nowhere shot. So this is what I observe anyway, in terms of small differences in the two. Okay. But it's not a golden rule. So let's just talk about the advantages of the beach volleyball attack in terms of the whole development of the player, of the volleyball player. And remember, we spoke about differential skill, adding background noise to make the skill more robust and adaptable. Effectively, attacking the ball on the beach develops adaptability. Because the ball is not always where you're expected to be. The wind blows it behind your head, it blows it outside, inside. So you have to be able to adapt and still be able to produce the power ball. Something that as a coach I'm very fanatical about is always make sure that the hard ball is an option no matter what the situation is. The hard ball threat. And then you freeze the defender, of course, and your shots are open. It stimulates the use of peripheral vision attacking on the beach because there's more deep blocking. When there's deep blocking, I'm in the air, the block is coming from a low point. I have to be able to see what's happening down there in my peripheral vision. And I think that attacking on the beach against deep blockers helps that. Which is not a bad thing for indoor, just to develop your peripheral vision. In indoor volleyball, playing all at high, I know there's at least one block there, probably two, and I need to go high. If there's no block there, okay, I hit the angles. It stimulates late decision-making. And that's because I jump in the air, and in beach volleyball, there's all these late changes happening to make it confusing for you. The blocker will jump to the line at the last moment angle, and you need to be able to see it with your peripheral vision and then change your decision. Okay, so it's developing vision, decision, execution, as I see it. Yeah, and of course, logically, and this I experienced very strongly as a player myself, is that if I want to get out of the sand to be able to hit all angles, I need to always be exploding, always. And I think, I know that also happens in indoor volleyball, but for youth players to learn, jump hard, always jump hard. In beach volleyball, if you don't jump hard, you're not getting out of the sand. So I see that as a benefit. And to be honest, as a hybrid player myself, when we would go from beach volleyball to indoor, it was unbelievable. The development, we would be jumping over the net in indoor volleyball after being at beach volleyball practice. Anyway, it's my theory, my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Advantage attack indoor. Logically, it develops power. And this is why at Beach Team Nederland, players that choose for beach volleyball at the age of 16 or 17 we continue the hybrid development. So most, I think all of them at the age of 17, 18, 19 are all playing indoor. Okay, because it's a way to say, hey, listen, don't forget, even though you can play shots in beach volleyball to score, you also need to be able to smash the crap out of the ball. Okay, so I see that as a very big benefit of indoor volleyball. To remind players that power attack is important. Develops contact height. I'm not saying that beach volleyball, people are not focused on contacting the ball height, but you can get away with a lot more in beach volleyball of letting the ball drop. The blocker jumps, you jump, you let it drop, and you play shots, and you can score and you can survive. That's not, you can't survive in indoor volleyball that way. You've got to get the ball high and you've got to hit the ball hard. So I see that as a benefit in beach volleyball. Stimulates scoring from the block, tooling the block, hitting the block out. We don't do it enough in beach volleyball. I'm guilty as a coach. I didn't really stimulate. I was more interested in angles and beating the defender and going past the block, or seeing the defender and shooting away from the defender. But actually, when you set the ball out to the antenna in beach volleyball and you hit a little soft shot on the line and going out, it's a very easy way to score a point. A tight set, close to the net. Thank you very much. Swipe out, point. Great. And I think that indoor attack, using the block, hitting high off the block is something that helps beach volleyball. Okay. One quick observation. Bit of a stab in the dark, but I have noticed this as a difference between indoor and beach players, is that I've noticed that a lot of beach volleyball players tend to use less rotation in the last step of their attack approach. It's not really that important. With the rotation, that's where you generate your power. Not so important in beach volleyball because it's more about angles. But it makes me wonder if that's the reason why those particular players choose for beach volleyball, because they don't use so much rotation, they don't generate so much power, they're not as effective in indoor volleyball. So small observation, is it true? I don't know. I have seen it several times and it makes me wonder. And that means that those players have missed a little bit of technique development in the younger age about how to really get the twist out of the last step so you can really generate power through the rotation. Hybrid considerations. We're talking about attack still. Oh, there it is again. Context awareness training. Through the whole presentation. And that is, I get a player that comes to the beach for the summer. We have to prepare for a junior European championships. It's one of the most talented players we have. They're jumping forward, jumping into the net, maybe losing height or can't hit the angles. Okay, let's do some indoor attacking. Oh, now we jump vertical. Now we jump forwards. Now we jump vertical. Now we jump forwards. Now we jump vertical, 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 vertical. And I tried to train the long jump, at least in the short term. I try to get it out of the player in the context that we need. Okay. If it's a problem, it's not always a problem. Sometimes the forward jump is fine for particular players. Hybrid considerations. I go crazy myself. Well, I did as a younger coach when beach players would come to the indoor practice and start poking the ball or playing snakies just because it was cool. And I'm like, okay, I'm a big fan of that stuff in the beach, but we're now playing indoor. So again, making them aware that that's not the most effective way to score points in the context of indoor volleyball. It's an investment of time of 10 minutes, and then the player, they get it. Very different than saying, hey, beach volleyball is making you bad. To me, it's just a useless comment. Okay, let's help them be aware of what they should be doing in the context. Hybrid considerations for the attack. David's going to talk about this, is load management. that's one of the most interesting things that we've learned in the last 10 or 15 years is about jumping load and shoulder load, going from indoor to beach and beach to indoor. But David's going to talk about that shortly. Okay. Oh, very shortly. Hang on. Like now, actually.
Thanks, Victor. Great. Yeah, so we're going to dive into load management. We have two topics to look at under this umbrella. The first one, do indoor and beach volleyball have different physical development requirements for athletes in a hybrid program? And the second piece we're going to look at are the load management considerations for players in hybrid programs. Cool. So we'll zoom in to the first topic. So the question is, are the physical development requirements the same for an indoor and beach volleyball athlete? And I think my answer to that question is, for the most part, yes. So if you're looking at a young 15, 16, 17-year-old playing both disciplines, I think we're looking to develop the same physical capacities and achieve the same physical outcomes in both disciplines. We want strength, power, speed. We're looking for athletes that can move efficiently, get into position fast, jump high, hit hard. I think coaches from both disciplines would be happy with athletes with those physical options or physical capabilities in both variations of the sport. And if we look at some of the differences, one of the major differences is beach volleyball has a higher metabolic demand. What do I mean by metabolic demand? I'm talking about the conditioning requirements, the fitness requirements. So, and that's because, number one, the sand surface. So every step you take on the sand, you're losing some energy into the sand. So the energy cost of moving on the sand is higher. Of course, in beach volleyball, you've got 2 players as opposed to 6. So you're covering more distances and you're involved in every play, which is also driving the energy demand up. In beach volleyball, also we're frequently playing in a tournament format, and that will demand multiple matches in a day. So that's also increasing the metabolic demands. And a final point here is the king of the court format, which we've seen come in recent times, which also is a higher intensity, higher tempo of play. So that's also driving the metabolic demands, the energy system demands of beach volleyball up. So it's a little bit higher than indoor volleyball. So what does this mean? Oh, we can stay on that one, Vic. What does this mean? From a physical development perspective, a lot of the qualities are complementary. So athletes can be busy 12 months of the year developing strength, power, and speed in their strength and conditioning programs, and also in their on-court context, either on the sand or on the hard court. Another potential way to utilize the higher energy demand of beach volleyball is to use that in the off-season for an indoor player. Instead of having a pure off-season and not playing, giving them a program to maintain their fitness, let them play some beach volleyball. It's at least maintaining, potentially improving their fitness, and you're getting all the skill, differential learning and skill development aspects that Victor was talking about in the first part of the presentation. So these are some of the advantages that you can use. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. The next piece I want to look at is the load management considerations in hybrid situations. So a major risk factor of injury is a sudden increase or change in load. And that can be a change in volume, how much training you're doing, a change in intensity, how hard it is the training you're doing, or a change in an external factor such as the surface. So for example, from the hard court to the sand. So we know that these transition periods from indoor season to beach season and from beach season to indoor season need to be managed really well. If we look at the lower body in particular, we spend a lot of time in both disciplines of the sport. You see patella tendons. I'll go back one, Vic, sorry. You see patella tendinopathy being a major injury in both disciplines of the sport. And we spend a lot of time getting familiar with this injury and trying to learn how to manage that injury better and better over the years. One of our biggest learnings is that tendons don't like change. They hate this sudden increase in load, but also a sudden decrease in load, because what's inevitably followed by a decrease in load is that increase again and that workload spike as you recommence training. So keeping a relatively stable load on a tendon is really important. And we want to try to give you some tools to help estimate the load that your athletes are doing and determine these upper and lower limits and how to stay within them. So another piece of understanding tendon load is understanding which actions load the tendon, are really hard on the tendon. And that are actions that are high in load and also fast. So we can imagine, for example, a spike approach where you're transferring all your horizontal momentum into vertical momentum to take off for a spike. That moment of transfer, no, it's coming back.
Sorry.
That moment of transfer, there's a high force, but it's also happening over a relatively short amount of time. So you've got a high loading rate. Equally, for example, if you're landing from a jump, all your force is coming back into the ground. It's a large amount of force, and it's dispersed over a small amount of time. So it's a high loading rate, which is causing a high load on the tendons. And this brings us to the point of the differences between the two surfaces. On the sand, the time frames that those actions are happening over is slightly longer, which decreases the loading rate. So that means for each jump, there's slightly less load on the sand, okay? And that fits with our practical experience. Athletes coming from the hard court to the sand seem to manage that transition better because the sand is a more soft, compliant surface and the load per jump is a little bit less. Going the other way from the sand to the hard, we know that tendons don't like change, and that change in surface with the faster loading rates and increased load on the tendon can cause trouble. So what we've put in place with that, with our beach volleyball athletes that are playing over the summer and looking to commence indoor when indoor season comes around again, in the last phase of the beach season, we'll implement what we call the patella preparation plan, the PPP. That's the last slide, but that's all right. Yeah, so the patella preparation plan, and that's as simple as preparing the athlete for that surface change by phasing in some jumps on a hard surface in the last period of the beach season. So practically that looks like twice a week, jumps on a hard surface in their gym program, and gradually building that up towards the indoor season so that that transition isn't especially steep. Okay, so that's a strategy we've used to manage that surface transition. Can I go back 2 slides, please, Vic? Also, I want to look at some strategies. I'll go back one more. Some strategies for managing the load. It's important to understand the different load demands of both disciplines of the sport. So here we've got some typical jump loads for beach and indoor volleyball. We've collected a bunch of data over the years and have come to these numbers for beach volleyball: 100 to 130 jumps for a blocker and 70 to 100 jumps for a defender. You can appreciate that the range is variable. This is because it can depend if it's a short match or a long match, which athlete is being served. Does the athlete jump serve, yes or no? So all these factors will influence the jump count. So appreciate that it's a range and it's variable, but it's meant to give you a snapshot of the loads that we'll see. And likewise for indoor, these are numbers that we've taken from a colleague in the indoor program. These ones are based off a 5-set match in which the player is playing that entire period. But you can also appreciate on the indoor side that that's also variable depending on length of the match, distribution of the sets, do you jump serve, etc., etc. So that's meant to give you an idea, a starting point to help calculate for a transition in this example from indoor volleyball to beach volleyball. So I'll talk you through an example of how we'll use this on the next slide. If we've got an example of an indoor player in a full-time program and he's looking to play beach volleyball over summer, we want to look at his current load capacity and also what's required of him coming up. So to get an estimate of his current load capacity, we're using the numbers from the previous slide, 130 jumps a match for a middle blocker. If we make the assumption that training is similar to a match load and an athlete is training twice a day, multiple days in a week, their 2-day jump load is somewhere around this 500 number. And likewise, if we look at the demands of a beach volleyball tournament, this is based off a beach volleyball format of a tournament over 2 days with 3 matches a day. So if you're a defender at the top of your limit, 6 matches times 100 is 600. A blocker, 6 matches is up in the 750 range. So we can use this to estimate where they currently are and what's going to be demanded of them on the sand. And you can also appreciate that this is just an example. You can also use appreciate that we will prepare in this example of beach volleyball. That's the worst case scenario in terms of the load, or the most extreme scenario in terms of load. That's playing the full 6 matches. They've progressed to the final of that tournament. It's also possible that it's 4 matches and the transition is smoother. But the point is to have awareness about the loads that you expect them to do, and then you can make a smooth transition. So this number hanging over on the side, this 40%, this is a guideline, a general guideline that we've used when changing from jump load, a week to week change in jump load, and trying to stay under this 40% figure. And when we've done that, we've experienced more success. And in times when we've gone over that marker, it can be a risk factor for injury, but it's just about having an awareness. You can still make whatever call you want to make, but it's doing so knowingly is the point we want to make. So these examples are focused primarily on the lower body. We're talking about jump counts and patella tendons, but it's also important to factor in the upper body and the number of attacks that you're doing. So for this transfer from indoor to beach volleyball, we need to look particularly at our setters and libros. So a setter may have quite a high jump count from jump setting, blocking, serving, but not necessarily a high attack count. So it's important to look at what he's currently capable of and what's going to be asked of him, and make a transition plan for that. So that basically means getting your setters to attack in the last phase of indoor season. And likewise for the libros, getting the jump counts and the hitting volume up for those guys a little bit in some of their training sessions to smooth that transition if they're looking to go to the beach. So that's beneficial from a physical perspective in terms of smoothing that transition out on the shoulder. But I think it also offers from a differential learning, early specialization perspective that was mentioned earlier. It's potentially advantageous to have your libero still hitting at a young age, or the setter still attacking at a young age, because who knows, down the track maybe they are better suited to a different position, and you're keeping some of those options open further down the track for some of the athletes. So I'll scoot along to the next slide, Vic. to summarize some of those strategies for the transition between indoor and beach. First, it's about smoothing out the transition. So we have that 40% guideline, looking at where they are, where they're going to, and putting a plan in place to make that transition in jump load and also attack load. And for the surface transition from beach volleyball to indoor volleyball, it's about implementing some hard surface jumps towards the last phase of the season to smooth that transition to the harder surface. And this last sentence sums it up nicely. It's about the conscious buildup of load to increase the preparation of the tendons and therefore reduce the chance of lost training or playing hours due to injury. So we just want to make conscious choices about the transition, smooth the load as best we can, so we're minimizing the risk of injuries and we can keep the guys playing. So that's our take home on that one. And I'll pass you back to Victor.
Thanks, Jonesy. Fantastic. For those of you that are wondering, oh, but jumps, how do I count the jumps and what if I get it wrong? Forget about it. It's not important. It's about awareness. Going from soft sand to a hard court requires a gentle transition of jumping on the hard surface before you arrive in the indoor season. Okay, and just keeping an idea of the differences in load, but please don't lose sleep over it. Okay, it's most of these players actually don't have problems. Some players that have sensitive knees or shoulders, they have more problems, and then you need to have an idea about it. But most of them are actually going from indoor to beach and backwards, and they're not having any problems. But if you see that there is an issue, then at least you can refer back to this presentation, and you can also make contact with us as well if you have more questions. Okay. Thanks, David. Okay. I hope you guys are okay for time. We're almost finished. Well, yeah, I'm trying to go through the third topic, which is, until now, it's been about how the two disciplines complement each other. Now we're talking more about an official hybrid program. Okay, what does a hybrid program look like, where you're offering structurally in your federation both disciplines in your youth program? Okay, and a lot of this, to be honest, is based on experience and my opinion. So I'm sorry, it is my opinion, but anyway, so shoot at it if you want later, that's fine. Yeah, okay, how I see it anyway. Firstly, at 15 years of age, we cannot honestly know in which discipline the player can reach their highest potential. We can't honestly say, I know that this player will become a top indoor or a top beach player. Okay, so let's be realistic. Our job is to help them get to the top of either discipline. I've been a beach volleyball coach my whole life, and if they come through my program and then go back to indoor and perform, I'm the first one in the tribune who's clapping. I honestly, it doesn't bother me how they get to the top. If I can play a role in that, great. Okay. I firmly believe that being structurally exposed to both disciplines is optimal for youth volleyball development, for the skill development. Okay. It's a big fat opinion, but that's what it is. Yeah, hybrid development increases the number of ball contacts. 12 months, no brainer. 12 months as opposed to 9 months, for example, in Europe. 3 months of summer, maybe 4 months if you're lucky. Yeah, just playing all year round in a differential environment. It stimulates differential learning and helps to overcome effects of early specialization. It gives all players a chance to become better at total volleyball and opens their options. Who knows, they might discover that they have really a talent for beach volleyball, and next thing you know, they're standing on the top of the podium in Gestart with a cowbell. So other than deep dishing, the deep dish set, which I said was a different technique, all techniques are pretty much the same, and they only need context adjustments. Okay. Beach volleyball develops movement, autonomy. So autonomy, at the moment, there's no coaching, so you have to make decisions yourself. Pattern recognition. Yeah, you're swinging the ball 100 times at the left side player. Surely after the 50th sharp angle ball, you start to think, hang on, he's hitting sharp angle a lot. Okay, so pattern recognition and decision making. The fact that there is no bench also helps to develop the fight response. That's a whole sports psychology issue, also for another day. But that's only a benefit for the total development of the volleyball player. Indoor volleyball helps to develop power, reaction time, precision, and teamwork. I'm going to fly through this because it's getting late. What could a hybrid youth volleyball development program look like? Okay, so we're talking about offering in your youth program both. For example, someone's got their microphone on, but it's okay, I'll keep on going. For example, talented youth players from the age of 14 or 15, could be younger, might be older, it's not so important, are structurally given training in both disciplines. Indoor volleyball in winter, beach volleyball in summer, or as we had when I was the talent coach in Holland, and also now, we have it structural all year round because we have great indoor beach volleyball centers, which means that in the winter, our youth players can also go and play, can train actively in beach volleyball. Okay, so maybe it's every Wednesday beach volleyball, and the rest of the winter it's indoor volleyball. But it could be for 4 weeks in the summer, or 8 weeks in the summer, or the whole summer beach volleyball. But structurally, you offer both. Okay, in a hypothetical hybrid program. In the hypothetical hybrid program, your policy that it's a hybrid program is visible. Okay, a visible online policy from the Federation regarding the hybrid volleyball vision. And the reason I say it is because if it's not written, it doesn't exist. And the difference is that I think that there's a hybrid program. It's not written, it's not a policy. Another coach in the indoor doesn't have the same message. So it's not a structural hybrid program. If it's written, it exists. If it's not written, it doesn't exist. Okay, so if you're heading that direction, make sure that parents and coaches and players can see online in your policy, this is our vision. We believe in hybrid development, and here it's written, and this is how we execute it. Okay, that's very different than a verbal agreement amongst coaches. This is also how we've tried to do it at moments in Holland, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But anyway, this is my opinion. In a hybrid program, where very often you have the most talented youth players are also the best in beach volleyball and indoor volleyball, because the sports are almost the same, except tactically, that the best youth players are able to play in peak events in both disciplines to increase the chance of performance for that country. Okay, so what that means is that we make an agreement. A player is in a beach volleyball program at the age of 18. They love beach volleyball. They also love indoor volleyball. Our country needs them in the indoor volleyball team for the European Championships, you know, as the reserve outside hitter or whatever it is, or the starting six, whatever. So the agreement is we will always try to make sure that our best players are available for the peak events for either beach or indoor. Okay, even if a player is in the indoor program, has made a choice, for example, themselves at the age of 17 or 18 or 19 for indoor volleyball, they enjoy beach volleyball, they maybe are the best beach volleyball player in the country, they get the opportunity to represent their country also in beach volleyball. And that there's an agreement between coaches that they will make that happen. And what we've done in the past is we've used, to prepare those players, we've used a focused training block approach. And what that means is, for example, we have a player who's 18 years of age, in the beach volleyball program, is playing, training indoor once a week, playing once a week, but is focusing on beach volleyball. The indoor team needs that player. We release that player and say, hey, listen, for 3 weeks or 4 weeks before that European Indoor Championships, you go to the indoor program and you focus on indoor. So we call that a focused training block approach. Okay, and when that's finished, they go back to their normal beach volleyball training, for example. And the big question, what's the big question? I've already forgotten it. At what age should they specialize? So what we're talking about in a hybrid program, you offer both structurally. Okay, many players, they love to do both. At one moment in time, actually, if they want to reach the top, they do have to make a choice. I mean, there were players that were doing both, but there's not many. For me, my opinion is as late as possible. And I think it should be like 20 years old, you should be doing both structurally. And then after that, if you really say, hey, I can really start making money or going towards the Olympics in one of the disciplines, okay, then you start to choose. But for me, to be honest, to be choosing for one discipline at the age of 15, that's not, at least that's not my vision. So in another big question is, in a hybrid program, you have a player who's talented in both. Eventually they have to make a choice. How is that choice facilitated? And what I'm saying is the selection process, there is a central communication approach regarding the selection offer to the athletes and parents at the same time from both indoor and beach programs. And the reason I say it is that otherwise you have indoor coaches pulling on players, beach coaches pulling on players, and they're tearing the player apart. Sit down at one time. This is what we can offer in the indoor program. This is what we can offer in the beach program. Let them choose. Quickly, conclusions. Conclusion 1. There is very little technical difference between beach and indoor. The differences in context have a positive effect on the development of all skill. Development of all skill. Through awareness of the small differences, we can help the players adjust quickly between the contexts. So that answers the first question that I asked at the very beginning of the presentation. Number 2, an optimal youth program includes structural training and playing of both disciplines. Use both disciplines structurally until at least the age of 20. And it doesn't mean you use them 50-50. It might mean it's 80-20. I don't know, but structurally you use both for optimal development. When transitioning from indoor season to beach season and back again, we should be aware of the changes in surface type, jumping, and shoulder load. And David spoke about patella preparation plans, how we get tendons ready, and how we avoid sudden changes which aggravate tendons. And the last conclusion, a hybrid program vision from a federation should be written and visible and communicated clearly to all coaches. Selection offers are made simultaneously. So that pretty much rounds off the technical part and the physical part, load management. And that brings us to the last part, actually, of this. It won't take very long. From Joep has, I guess, a little bit of an update regarding the coaching situation in beach volleyball and where it's heading. Joep, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. So
do you want me to stop my sharing? Or
yes, stop sharing, please. And
okay, clear.
I try to share from my side.
But in that case, I'll just say this. Thanks and good luck. See you on the beach. Take a photo of that at me in the middle of the night. But if you do have burning questions, then I'm available. Thank you.
You see my screen or not?
Yes.
You see my screen? Good.
Yep.
Let me see what so coaching in beach volleyball has changed. Because so far it was only allowed in certain competitions like youth championships and in Continental Cup competition. But if the FIVB agrees at this moment, if the high persons agrees and the Board of Arbitration agrees, it will be implemented in 2022 in all other categories of beach volleyball matches. So coaches will be allowed inside the court. But the ones who don't know how that works in seniors, we have to know that there are some conditions we are implemented in coaching regulations set up in 2014 for the youth and the juniors. Coach have to sit on the bench during the whole match. He cannot walk like in indoor next to the court. He can only talk to the players when the ball is out of play. That means in between rallies and during timeout and side switches. He switches with the players every 7 points to the other side or every 5 points to the other side of the court. Difference also with the indoor is he cannot get information from a scout after each set. And if he leaves the court, because you have to, like it happens in beach volleyball, he have to warm up another team, he cannot be replaced and he cannot come back. So we should have more. And in volleyball, he can have his own medical staff next to the court. So if something happens to the player, the physio or the doctor can come into the court. Wow, it's already in the last one. He can. He has to switch with the players, like I said. He can ask the scorer the number of timeouts. He can even ask the timeouts to the referees. But he's also a part of the team, like an indoor. So if he misbehaves himself, he can get a red card. That means a point for the other team. So the sanction will be towards the team, including the coach. And he can leave the court if he has to go to the toilet or whatever. But then the technical supervisor or the referee delegate or the reserve referee, if there's one, should go with him to the toilet or to go outside. So it's very quick what I said, but this will be happening probably in the World Tour already this year. Somebody makes a picture, I see. So are there any questions? Just ask them in the app and we will try to give the answers.
Joep, I have a remark.
Yes?
Since I was in contact with the FIVB about this,
Me too.
and it's for sure not yet decided that this will happen.
No, but it's only a proposal. I know there are more proposals.
Yeah, but it's not that people think, okay, it's a decision by the FIVB that this will happen, but it will maybe be proposed to the board. And I can tell you that I'm not in favor of that. So we will see what's going to happen.
Yes, okay. I contacted Casanova and Yu Chao, and they said also the same what you are saying.
Yeah, okay, but that people in the meeting understand that it's proposed by some Brazilian coaches, but that it's for sure not yet decided.
Okay, thanks. Good.
So the conclusion actually is that there are developments happening in the sport, some nice developments, some controversial proposals, but it's good to be aware of in this moment. It's a chance to have contact with all of you now, and it is a proposal that coaching will be part of it. Will it be approved? Who knows? But there's a lot of benefits that there is no coaching. So in terms of developing autonomy, decision making, no coach, you have to learn that yourself. So that's a beautiful part of beach volleyball and a big difference between indoor and beach volleyball.
Yes.
So we're going to go now. Peter, are you
So
there?
Peter,
Yes, I'm here. I'm here,
Hello.
and yeah,
There's quite a lot of questions. Do you just
yeah.
want some and ask them? And I think we'll cap that at about, I don't know if you want to hang around for 15 minutes or so, and the rest we'll try to answer at a later date.
Okay, yeah, well, there are a lot of questions, and maybe we can start with the last few questions about the coaching. So what is your idea, Victor, if you look at coaching in the World Tour?
Gosh.
Yeah, I know this is not the easiest one.
Okay, well, you asked a question and I'll tell you. The beautiful thing I love about beach volleyball is there's no coach. Okay, that helps to develop people. So I'm in the business of developing people, and beach volleyball is a vehicle. Perfect. Except that whilst coaching is not a structural part of the sport, there's no need for countries to invest in the development of beach volleyball coaches. And beach volleyball coaching has brought me so much as a person. And I struggle with the relevance of beach volleyball coaching, and I would love to see that grow. It doesn't have to grow by having beach volleyball a structural part of the game, but I would love to see more investment and more coach development for beach volleyball. That's my opinion. You asked.
Okay, interesting. Good, thanks. David, are you still there? Because there were also a few questions for you.
Sure, I'm here. Yep.
You're there. Okay. So I think Jurre has a very interesting question. He says, if you look at cycling, they can be world champions in 3 disciplines. And is there, what do you think about the situation about, what does he says about, yeah, well, maybe beach volleyball or volleyball can learn from other sports, and can we combine that? So is it is a differential learning in volleyball and beach volleyball? Can we learn from other sports? Can we take things in our benefit and maybe create like a universal player that can be a champion indoor and beach volleyball?
Yeah, sure. Nice question. Yeah, I think that's a great example from the cycling, with some of the top guys are good in multiple disciplines of their sport, and they're probably drawing upon, yeah, it's still cycling, it's turning the wheels around, but in different contexts. And that's largely what we were presenting today. It's, yeah, it's still knocking a ball around, but in different contexts. And I think there's examples of that in our sport. Players that have been great indoor players have also gone on to be great beach players in the same career. So transfer even late in their career, early, late, change back. So
Our very own Reiner Numendor.
a great example. Yep.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yeah, I think having that ability to draw upon the skill sets from other disciplines and complement each other, I think it can potentially build a better, well-rounded athlete across both streams.
Yeah, and I think actually, if I can just support the answer to the question, Peter, is that early specialization, we were talking about early specializing in positions, but actually, if you go back even further about what the movement competencies that are needed in volleyball, we have to be very careful in our sport that at a young age that we don't start to teach volleyball specific skills only. So I know that we are very busy now to make sure that up until the age of 12, that there's a whole lot of confusing different movements going on to increase the ability to move, to learn new movement as you get older. So playing all different sports and experiencing all different movement patterns at a young age is, I believe, is critical to becoming a successful volleyball player, because you have to use all of those movements.
Yeah, I fully agree on that. Well, there are some more questions, but I think if we have a look at the time, I think it's easier if we answer the questions later on by email, and then everybody gets his answers. I would like to wrap it up. I would like to thank you, Victor, and David, of course, and Joep, for all the information. I think it was very interesting. We also saw it in the chat. There were a lot of remarks. There were some questions, and I think people were really involved. So very interesting, inspiring. I'm sure it's going to help us to grow the level of our sport as well, indoor as beach volleyball. If there are any more questions, you can also email them to beach@nevobo.nl. My colleague is now going to put that email address in the chat. So don't hesitate, ask your questions. We will make sure we have an answer for you. If we don't know the answer will be, we don't know. If you have any other ideas about great webinars or topics we could organize, please share them also with us. I know. And we'll try to organize another one. I think it's, yeah, like I said at the beginning, it's especially in times like this when people are challenged in any way, we should gather and we should come together online and share information with each other and meet each other and make sure that we all keep involved in the sport. I would like to thank the WEVZA for inviting us to organize this webinar. It was really a pleasure to do so. And all the participants, thank you for joining us tonight or tomorrow, this morning. I have no idea what time zone you are, but it was really fun to have you here. And take care of yourself and take care of the volleyball family, especially now, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.